Okay, so let's start. Next class, as always, is Le'ila Nishmas in the memory of Yitzchak Tzvi ben Yosef as the Shema Shesab in elevation. There's a lot of people that are watching us. I love seeing all the comments. For Shalom from Texas and from Michigan and from New Mexico and everyone that's watching us on Chabad.org. Post where you're watching from, and I promise to say hello afterwards. Of course, if you're watching on my personal page, good evening, everybody. Okay, let's start. Yes. We have a private jet? Who's a private jet? I haven't been on it yet. Okay, let's take a private jet. Okay, let's start with a joke, a story. It's a good one. So, there's a king, say a rich man, having a big pool party, something more contemporary, right? Big pool party, there's an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and he has his pet alligator in the pool. Pet alligator. And all the guests are there, and they're looking at the alligator, and he says, I'll tell you what, anyone that can swim across the entire pool without getting eaten by the alligator will get anything they want. They want a private jet, they'll get a private jet. If they want whatever they want, any request they ask for will be fulfilled. Deal? Everything around. Who's going to be the guy? Who'll be the mashugana who's going to swim across the entire swimming pool with an alligator to get whatever they want from this multi-millionaire? And as everyone's around talking, all of a sudden there's a splash. And into the deep end, some old Jew comes from the deep end of the pool. And he's swimming as fast as you can swim. His arms are flailing. He's going. And the alligator wakes up. With the mall, he sees lunch in the pool. And the alligator starts to chase after this guy. He's swimming so fast. He gets to the other end. He beats the alligator. Everyone's clapping and cheering for him. He did it. He swam across the pool with the alligator inside. So the rich man comes to him and says, "Nu, tell me, what do you want? Well, you can get anything you want. Anything you want is yours. What do you want?" So the first thing I want to know, who's the meshugana that pushed me into the pool? That's what he wants to know. All he wants is to know who was the guy that pushed him in.
Oh, that's great.
It's great. Okay. So today, my friends, we're going to talk about Nachshon, and you'll see how this joke is actually very much connected to the theme of tonight's discussion. Today we're going to talk about the man called Nachshon, the son of Aminadav, who is famous for being the first one to enter the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, when the Jewish people crossed the river. But there's a whole story here, and a backstory, and a history, and a lesson for us, and a lot to talk about. So let's start from the beginning. Nachshon was the 5th generation descendant of Yehuda, of Judah. So when Judah came down, he's one of the 12 tribes, right? We all know about Judah. We had a class on him a few weeks ago. So he had a son called Peretz, who had a son called Chetzrod, who had a son called Ram, who had a son called Aminadav, who had a son called Nachshon. Hence the hero of tonight's discussion, the hero of this week's Torah reading, Nachshon, the son of Aminadav. The first time the Torah mentions the name of Nachshon is when Aaron marries the sister of Nachshon. So it's very interesting, the Torah tells us that Aaron took for a wife Elisheva, daughter of Aminadav, sister of Nachshon. Now, why is it important to know that she was a sister of Nachshon? Obviously, you want to know who her father is, who her mother is, what family she comes from. But the history of her sister and brother seemingly should not be that important to know. And from here, the Talmud tells us that when you marry a person, you need to find out not only about their parents, but about their older brother. Because that gives you a clue into what kind of family it is, how the children were raised, what kind of a home the kids grew up in. You have a parent that's very respected, but how did the kids grow up? What kind of environment do they come from? So the nature of the children, of the brother, of the sister is very important as well. But that's who he is. Otherwise, the Torah does not tell us really anything else about him. We're going to assume he is the prince of the tribe of Yehuda. We will eventually read that when the princes, each one brings an offering for their tribe during the first 12 days of the inauguration of the Mishkan, that the first one is going to be Nachshon of the tribe of Yehuda. What does he do to deserve this merit, this honor of being the first? So let's go straight to the story we want to talk about tonight, the story of the Jewish people and the splitting of the sea. Now you all know the story of the sea split, right? Moshe stuck out the stick, and he stood there. I don't know how. I never saw the movie, so I don't know how it is in the movie. But I'm going to guess. He stands there. The wind is blowing. Stands there, right, and the wind is the stick, and the sea splits. Yeah, is that how the movie goes?
Yeah, except old, not great special effects.
Oh, they don't have good special before computers, everything was digital. I hear you. Like old-fashioned fans were actually blowing real water. I hear you. Today it'd be like much cooler. It'd be like stuff flying everywhere. I got it.
Didn't Nachshon jump in before Moshe's?
Yeah. Very good. What I'm going to tell you tonight is not the movie. And I say that without watching the movie, I'm pretty sure what I tell you tonight will not be the movie. Pretty sure, and again, I've never watched the movie, but I read the sources. I know the Medrash. I know the. So let's hear how the story really went down, right? You know they always say the book is better than the movie. So the book is better than the movie. Let's learn the book tonight, and then we can go watch the movie and see if they came even close. What? Yeah, exactly. Cecil B. Denver. Exactly. It's actually Cecil B. Moses. It's okay. So we all know the Jews left Egypt. Which Jews leave Egypt? Only the Jews that believe. Only the Jews that believe in Moses' power to redeem the Jewish people leave Egypt. The rest of the Jewish people, I'm not in the chat here, the rest of the Jewish people died in Egypt. It says in this week's Torah reading, V'chamushim alu b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, that the word chamushim, which literally means that they were armed, also means 1/5. 1/5 of the Jewish people went up from Egypt. The rest died. In the plague of darkness, when the Egyptians were unable to see what was happening with the Jewish people, those Jews that did not believe in Moses and did not believe in the promises of redemption and of liberation, those Jews died in the desert. Only Jews that had strong faith and believed in the miracles were redeemed. And yet these same Jews that leave Egypt, that are believers, that are the ones that are worthy of redemption, are still slaves. They're still scared. And so what happens? If we open up our text, we're going to look at the very beginning. The Jewish people come to the desert. Before we read, I'll give you some context. They ran for 3 days. Okay, just some context before we read anything. So they ran from Egypt. They left for 3 days. The first day they gather at Ramses. Miraculously, from there they travel to Sukkot, which is a long journey they did in a very short period of time. The next day they travel, and then on the third day God says to turn around, to head back towards Egypt in order to give the impression to Pharaoh the Jews are lost in the desert. So they're not actually retracing their steps backwards, but they're going around like in a loop, like a U-turn, which implies they're not going back to Egypt. They don't know where they're going. They're, as we say, fablunged. You know what fablunged means? Yeah. They're fablunged. They're wandering around, lost. They don't know where they're going, and they're Jews. Jews don't ask for directions. We rather wander around lost for a few years than ask them for directions.
Were they wandering around lost on purpose, so it wouldn't look like they were leaving? No, it's ego.
No, the other way around. God deliberately told Moses, the question was whether they were wandering around on purpose. God told Moshe, I want you to turn back, even though the Jews got afraid when they saw Moses redirecting and saying we're going to go backwards towards Egypt, in order to kind of be a bait and to trick Pharaoh into thinking the Jews are lost in the desert. This way Pharaoh will be more tempted to try and chase after the Jewish people. Understand? So of course God wanted Pharaoh to chase after the Jewish people. I'll tell you now a few other things God also did to tempt Pharaoh to chase after the Jewish people, because even the 10 plagues was not the ultimate of the destruction of Egypt. The ultimate, the real final grand finale, if you will, is not the death of the firstborn. It's the splitting of the sea. And that will be the transformation of Egypt, where they're completely destroyed and their wealth becomes Jewish wealth, etc., etc. So we're very much looking forward to, God is looking forward to the grand finale where he destroys the Egyptian army. So God deliberately has the Jewish people walking towards, in the direction of Egypt once again. Now, so on the fourth day, there were actually spies that were parked together with the Jewish people, Egyptian spies. On the fourth day, the Jews don't travel anywhere. They don't travel anywhere. Not going this way, not that way. And so the spies say to the Jews, no, you got to keep on going back to Egypt. And the Jewish people say, we're not going anywhere. They were making their beds, it says in the Medrash. They were making their beds, they were settling down, getting ready for a picnic. So they said, but you promised Pharaoh only 3 days. Remember, the Jews, when they left Egypt, they never said explicitly, we're going free to the land of Israel. Always the way that God told Moshe to speak to Pharaoh was to tell him, we're going on a 3-day journey to pray to our God. And although Moshe never ever said a lie, the Ibn Ezra points out, he never lied. He never said we will come back. Never ever did Moshe say to Pharaoh, we shall return. Because that would have been a lie, and a lie you can't say. But he implied we're going for 3 days, and after 3 days we'll come back. That was the implication. But that wasn't at all the plan. The plan was we're leaving and never returning. The Jews said we left, we're not going back. And the spies said, you have to go back. That was a condition. So the Jews began to beat the spies that were there. They beat them up. So they ran back to Pharaoh. The Egyptian spies that were traveling along with the Jewish people got beat up by the Jews when they started telling them, what do you mean? You got to go back to Egypt. That was a condition. So they come back to Pharaoh. They say they're lost, and they don't plan on ever returning back to you. They're planning on staying away. And because the fact, if they would have been going in a straight line towards Israel, Pharaoh might not have tried chasing them. But because he felt that they were lost and they were vulnerable and they don't know where they're going, he said, obviously they're still weak, I can still get them. Okay? Now they come back and they camp by a place which is called Pi Hachiris. That's how it's called over here. Pi Hachiris. Which means the mouth of freedom. Pi is a mouth. Chirot is freedom. Pi Hachiros. Actually a place called Esam, but here it's called Pi Hachiros, a place of freedom. This mouth of freedom, I didn't look today to see where it is, but if my memory serves me correctly, it's like by the Aqaba Gulf of Nakba or something. There's a place that today they believe, like 3 years ago I was reading a lot about this, which today the topography and the archaeological finds over there of chariots and of horseshoes and all these things, there's archaeological, sure, if you Google archaeological proof for the splitting of the sea, they have found in this place, which this sea of reeds is a very, very deep, I was saying this morning, it's a very, very deep, deep river. Most oceans have like a seabed. There's a incline. A low point. What's it called? A low point? A low point. Yeah. And it slopes. So you can walk into the beach and go down, Whereas the Sea of Reeds, it's like the Suez Canal. It's just very, very deep. Deep ships can go through there, but there's no slope. It's like a cliff. Straight down, like our Coral Springs canals, which are man-made. This is not man-made, but like shallow and goes 25 feet deep or whatever it is. So there's one area, if you look in the scuba divers can tell you that there's one area, like a wall, a few hundred yards under the water line. So when you look at it, you don't see it, but it goes all the way up like a wall with like a ridge that goes across, where you could walk in and walk across. So there's a place that today you can go scuba diving and you can see this is a ridge that physically and logistically would make sense the Jewish people cross over here. And I'm going from memory now, probably shouldn't be talking about it, but that's the, so there's an area called Pi Hachiros. Behind them is the ocean. In front of them is Egypt. To the side of them is the desert, on one side, the other side is mountains. On top of the mountains is an idol. One idol that was not destroyed during the plagues that God did in Egypt. What did God do? God destroyed all the idols, right? God wanted to show who's boss over here.
Me.
God. So God destroyed all the idols that were there. There was one single solitary idol that God did not destroy during the plagues of Egypt, which was this idol called Baal Tzephon. And this idol, Baal Tzephon, which is mentioned in the Torah, Baal Tzephon, that was its name, was there on top of this mountain. Again, this was bait. This was bait. When Pharaoh and the Egyptians were chasing after the Jewish people, they see the one idol, and on the desert there were wild animals that gathered. The Medrash says that animals gathered in the desert to stop the Jews from going into the desert. So they were literally trapped on all four sides. They had nowhere to run. Running was not an option. Cliff over here, sea behind us, desert with wild animals here, and the Egyptian army here. You understand the situation? They were literally closed in on all four sides. And the Egyptians think, oh look, there's the seas closing in on them. Great, good for us. It means, they see the idol is on top. Obviously, God is our God, the God of Baal Tzephon is still with us. Maybe this will be the God that will defeat the God of the Jewish people, and that's what spurred them on into chasing after the Jewish people. Now, the Jewish people see all this. Now, I'll tell you one more interesting detail. At first, Pharaoh couldn't get the Egyptians to go chase after the Jews. The Egyptians were like, no thank you. Let the Jews go, we don't want to chase them. So Pharaoh kept telling them, but they stole your gold, they stole your silver, they stole your jewelry, they stole your necklaces, they stole. Then Pharaoh himself harnesses his chariot himself. And he says to the soldiers, I won't go normally when the king goes to battle. Where do they go? In the back. They go out to the back. You go in the front, I'll be in the back. I'll be supervising on my walkie-talkie. Yeah. Pharaoh said, I'll go in the front line. They said, why are you going in the front? So he says, because this is not a battle against the Jewish people. This is a battle against the king, the God of the Jewish people. I'm the God of the Egyptians. I personally am going to go do battle against the God of the Jews. And Pharaoh really believed this narrative, as we discussed already many times in the last few weeks. Pharaoh truly believed of his powers, his spiritual powers, his godly powers, and he was so driven with a hatred and a desire to go and fight against Pharaoh, against the God of the Jewish people. So he's in the front. He promises to divide all the spoils. Normally the king takes the most and gives something, because again, to him it wasn't about the money. This was all about fighting against God. The money wasn't an issue for him. So, anyway, the Jewish people see the Egyptian army approaching. Right? They see it's coming. It's bad news. They're scared. They're afraid. And what happens? The Jewish people begin to panic and they cry out to Moshe. What do they say? Look in your text. This is from chapter 14, this week's Torah reading, verse number 11. They said to Moses, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us to die in the desert? That's pretty sharp, huh? You couldn't afford Star of David's it's pretty expensive to die in Florida today. It is. I think in New York it's much worse, but they're saying, you couldn't afford the graves in Egypt? You took us to die in the desert where there's a lot of land available, so plots are cheap? What is it that you have done to us to take us out of Egypt? Lama ma'azeh to take us out of Egypt. They say to him, isn't this the thing about which we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone and we will serve the Egyptians, because we would rather serve the Egyptians than die in the desert. You understand? These are the words spoken by slaves. Who would say better we should die as slaves than die in the desert as free men? They weren't yet Jew. They were from the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They hadn't yet accepted the covenant of the Jewish people at Mount Sinai. For people to say, I would be happier dying as a slave in Egypt than to die as a free man in the desert, is someone that's been so conditioned their entire lifetime to live the life of a slave, that to them, that's their status quo. There's a comfort for them. There's security for them in being a slave. The notion of dying free is scary to them. And you have to understand, like to us, we're Baruch Hashem. We grew up free people. We're in the land of the free, right? Land of the brave, home of the free. To us, freedom is ingrained in our very psyche, especially as Americans. It's like ingrained in us. Patrick Henry, what did Patrick Henry say? Give me liberty. Give me liberty or give me death. Did a school report on him many years ago. Those are the words of a free man. Give me liberty or give me death. The Jewish people are, and these are the ones that left Egypt. These are the ones that had faith in God, who believed in God. And they believed that God would save them. But the moment that they saw the Egyptians re-attacking, and they could see in the distance, as I was explaining, they were trapped on all sides, and they saw actually on the 6th day, so the 4th day the spies went back, on the 5th day, Pharaoh collects the army, he travels on 1 day, and the 6th day catches up to the Jewish people, and he comes to the Jewish people, he's coming towards them, there's an army of 600,000 chariots, plus footmen and soldiers, basically the entire Egyptian army. Whatever Pharaoh had, again, this is a war, when you're like, you don't care anymore, all bets, what's the expression when you're playing, all bets are off, right? This was do or die for Pharaoh, there was no hedging bets, there was no calculated risks, there was none of that. The entire Egyptian army was going full force into Egypt, into this battle, which is exactly how God wanted it to be, that Egypt should be completely destroyed, obliterated, no more. And so, when these Jews see the Jews are coming, the Egyptians are coming, the fear that they had been ingrained with for so many years came back. Now, actually, the next verse is described that there were 4 camps of Jews. I don't want to spend too long on this. There's many classes and the Rebbe talks about this, but I can't skip this without doing justice to the story. Of course, what do Jews do when they're in distress? Well, eat. That's what they do when they celebrate. That's what we do when we win. Well, they complain, and after the case, so first, you're right. First is complain. Don't forget complaining. They all complain.
Didn't they pray and they said, don't pray, do something?
Very good. You're getting in your head some memories here. Good. Hello, everyone that's watching from all over the world. So the Jews, after they finish complaining, the next thing they do is, come on, Bruce. What do they do next? They argue with each other. They argue with each other. So there's different opinions what we should do next. Now we finish complaining, right? They're not all going to agree on a course of action. That would not be the Jewish approach at all. Absolutely not. So some Jews said they gave up fair, they gave up hope, and so we should die as free people. Actually, we should commit suicide and jump into the river, to the Sea of Reeds and die. Better to die here than to go back to Egypt. One group of Jews said, let's surrender her. Those are the Jews saying, let's go back to being slaves. One group of Jews said, let's fight. Let's be the Maccabees. We have no chance. We're a small little army of Jews or slaves against the Egyptian army, but let's die like fighting men. And the one group said, let's pray to God. The righteous one said, why are you giving up hope? Let's pray to God. Now you would think that the ones that said, let's pray to God are the righteous ones, that they were correct. But God in the verses says they're all wrong. Don't be afraid. You won't return back to Egypt. Don't give up hope. You don't need to commit suicide. And don't pray to me. You don't need any of that. Moshe says to them, stand and you will see the salvation of God. God will take care of you. And then God says to Moshe as follows. And here's a verse that we really need to pay. This is the verse that really is the whole class going to be on. Verse 15. The Lord said to Moses, why do you cry out to me? Because when all the Jews are fighting and crying and arguing, Moshe is praying to God. Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'Yisrael. Speak to the children of Israel and let them travel. We'll get to the next verse in a minute. This is the verse we need to talk about first. God says to Moshe, why are you crying? Why are you worried? Why are you stressed out? I already told you what to do. What did I tell you to do? Travel. So what do you need to do? Travel. All you need to do is do as I told you. You need to travel. And so the Jewish people, they already were told. Why were they leaving Egypt? To go to Mount Sinai. Well, first to go to Mount Sinai to get the Torah, then to go to Israel. So you already have a destination. You already have an itinerary. You already have a place to go to. Don't waste time. Go. There's only one small technical difficulty with saying travel. The sea hadn't split yet. They knew the direction was through the sea, but the sea was still there. So travel is a beautiful plan, but if there's an ocean in the way, there's an ocean in the way. The sea had not yet split. Now, God does not answer this question, nor does Moshe ask God what to do about the sea. God says, travel, and so Moshe tells the Jewish people, travel. We got to travel. That was a command of God. It makes no sense. That's the whole point. Don't ask questions. Don't raise doubts. If God says to do something, you got to obey God and follow and travel. So, do you think the Jews start to travel? No. They're afraid. And we can't really blame them.
But that's when Moses put out his hand with his staff.
Not yet. Almost, but not yet. Soon, that's in the next verse. But there's in between the verses, some of the greatest stories of Judaism actually, are some not even so explicit, for whatever reason. The Bnei Yisrael, the Israelites, the Jews, they're still travel, but where? There's an ocean. What should we do? And they needed someone to kind of set the path. And there's different opinions. The tribe of Binyamin came, but the way the Gemara in Saita explains it is that the first one to go in is Nachshon ben Aminadav. Let's read this text inside from the Mechilta. Again, this is in the Gemara in Saita. It's in the Mechilta. Just look from the Mechilta because it's very, very clear that it's written very straightforward over here. One said, you see the bottom, it's from the Medrash. One said, I'm not going in first. And another said, I'm not going in first. As it says, Ephraim has surrounded me with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. Meaning, basically, everyone was arguing, saying we can't go in, we can't go. Since they, Bnei Yisrael, Israel, was taking advice and debating over which course of action to take, Nachshon ben Aminadav jumped into the Red Sea, and his tribe followed him into the sea. Everyone else was debating and analyzing what should we do. And Nachshon jumped in, and his whole tribe followed after him. And then the tribe of Binyamin, and that's why they got the temple in their territory. And therefore, he merited to have the kingdom. As it says, when Israel left Egypt, the house of Jacob left the people of his strange tongue. Yehuda became his holy nation. So from this, he's blessed, and that the kingdom of the Jewish people stay with the tribe of Yehuda and in the family of Nachshon because of his leadership in going into the ocean. So what happened? It's very exciting. He goes into the ocean, he starts to walk, everyone's following after him. But even after he walks into the ocean still did not split. And he starts to walk, and it goes up to his knees, and up to his waist, and up to his chest, until it's up to his chin. He's up to his chin in water, and he's walking. He's walking. At this point, everyone's following after him, and Moshe is panicking. And so Moshe says to God, God, how could you let this happen? You promised you're going to split the sea. Now, I'll tell you before what happens next,
Was it
that
promise to split the sea, or?
to save the Jewish people, you're right. It's the promise, he did the promise to split the sea. He promised to save the Jewish people. Correct. I misspoke. Thank you, Marsha. You promised to take us to the promised land. So, where are you? Now, at that moment, the angels in heaven were trying to stop God from allowing Moshe to split the sea. The angels in heaven were fighting. And the angel of Egypt, I forgot his name now, the angel of Egypt came and made a tribunal before God. And so the Jewish people don't deserve to be saved. The Jewish people, they worship idols in Egypt the same way the Jews worship idols, and the same way the Egyptians worship idols. When the Jews were in Egypt, they were impacted and assimilated in many ways, not always, to the Egyptian culture. And they also worshipped idols. So you can't let them in. You can't save them. So he made a whole tribunal, and it was decided that the attribute of justice came, and they said the Jewish people should be saved. It's not their fault. They were slaves. They had no control. And finally, after in heaven it was decreed that the Jews should be saved, and the prayers had an impact, at that moment is finally when God says to Moshe as follows. Look at verse number 16.
Wait, whose prayers had an impact?
The prayer of the Jews to help win the court case in heaven.
Okay, but the angels and the Jews at this.
It says that the Jews were praying, but at the same time that the Jews were praying, up in heaven there was a court case going on as well. And then after the angels decreed, or the court in heaven ruled, the Jews are worthy of being saved. At that moment God says to Moshe, verse number 16, and you raise your staff and stretch your hand over the sea and split it. And the children of Israel shall come in the midst of the sea on dry land. Okay? So here we see only after your Nachshon's already in the water up to his chin. And only after the angels have fought against God and eventually they have won, and the Jews are walking into the ocean, only then does the sea split. Until that moment, the sea didn't split. Why not? Why didn't the sea split before?
Because Moshe did not put his hands out with the staff to spread the water.
Because God hadn't told him to. You're right. He didn't know that he was supposed to stretch out his stick until God told him to. The question is, why not? So the water.
Well, because they really wanted to see a miracle.
Well.
They wanted to really see a miracle.
So the reason is that the waters were waiting for the Jewish people to express their faith through action. That's what the waters were waiting for. Even basically, the miracle could only happen when the Jewish people would express their faith and show their conviction in the fact that God would save them. Only then was God going to take them, do the miracle for them. If the Jews wouldn't believe enough to go into the water, the miracle of the splitting of the sea would never have happened. The water itself is waiting. The water is waiting for an external demonstration of the faith of the Jewish people. Because for a Jew to believe, okay, every Jew believes. To believe is ingrained within our DNA. For a Jew to believe in God, it's part of the way we were hardwired. The Jewish people are called ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. believers, the sons of believers. It's inherent in the DNA of a Jew. In the very way that we were created by God, every Jew naturally, inherently has belief in God. Which is why you have countless stories of Jews that were so far away from religion, so disconnected, so spiritually uninvolved. Push comes to shove. Someone attacked them, they heard someone saying dirty Jew, they heard of a terrorist attack in Israel. Whatever it was that woke them up, their Jewish spirit comes roaring alive. Because it's there inside them. That's not what's going to make a miracle. God says the only way for a miracle to happen, faith. Not only faith, I take it back. No. No. The only way for a miracle to happen is if you can express your faith in concrete, practical, actual, tangible steps.
I believe in it.
You can believe in something, but only up to a point where I'm not willing to act on it. There's a big difference. There's a tremendous difference between believing in something and believing in something so strongly that I actually am willing to act upon my belief.
The tightrope walker.
Exactly. So I actually was not going to say this story tonight, although I was thinking about it, but because I'm going to say it because I can't not. Because I really don't want to give a class on the difference between believing in God and trusting in God, which is emunah and bitachon. And when I was planning tonight's class, I said I'm not going to go there, but I can't help myself. So
You're talking about a difference between belief
Trust.
And passion for God and fanatical belief in God.
I'm talking about the difference. No, not fanatical.
But if you're willing to do something on behalf of God, that is kind of like fanatical belief.
No, to do something on behalf of God. What do you mean? God loves us. God cares about us. God is our God. So why would we not? We believe in God. So it's a problem. It's froze. Yes, we believe in God.
Yeah, but there's some people out there that use that as an excuse to do bad things to people. I mean,
Well, that's probably not a real belief.
like the Hamas people, they believe that it's okay for them to, because their God tells them that they have to kill us, and they go to heaven.
But they're to a false God. Their whole thing is an idol, not really God.
I understand that, but I'm just saying like that. What's the difference between fanatical belief and belief? Where does the difference?
Okay, I don't want to get too distracted in this conversation. This is not working again. But the point is, there's a beautiful story. Here we go. There's a beautiful story that explains this difference between believing in something and being willing to actually put your life into what you believe in. The story goes as follows. There was a tightrope walker, professional circus performer, who came to a town that had never seen a circus before. He comes to the two biggest buildings in the very center of the town, and he says to them, he puts up a rope going from the two biggest buildings, 25 feet, 30 feet up in the air, way high up in the air. He says, who believes, the whole crowd gathers around to see this guy on the top of the tightrope. He says, who believes that I can walk across this rope, 30 feet up in the air, from one building to the next? So some people say, yeah. And some people say, no, but you're crazy. You can't do that. You're going to kill yourself, fall on your head. You're sure going to... What happens? He walks across the rope. Everyone's clapping and cheering. Beautiful. They say, so who thinks I can walk across this rope? Backwards. Now already more people say, yeah. Some people say backwards. You think that's really crazy. You can't do backwards. You can't see where you're going. Guess what? He walks across the rope backwards. But now everyone's clapping and cheering. He brings a wheelbarrow up onto the roof of this building. And now he says, now who thinks I can push a wheelbarrow across the rope? But now everyone's clapping and cheering, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, everyone's clapping for him. He says, okay, who wants to go inside the wheelbarrow? You understand? I believe you can walk across the rope. Doesn't mean I'm willing to get inside the wheelbarrow. You understand?
I would have thought if there was a net of it.
And then that's already a condition to your belief. The point is, of course Jewish people believe. To believe is part of our DNA. It's part of who we are as a people. What was unique, what was special, was that Nachshon did something he didn't just believe. His belief was so strong that his belief impacted the way he behaved. That's what was so special about Nachshon. His belief wasn't just an abstract theoretical concept that in my brain I believe in God's power to save us. Nachshon's belief was so real, so authentic, so absolute, that it had a direct impact on the way he actually conducted himself in his physical behavior. His faith expressed itself not in faith, not in thought, not in emotions. His faith expressed itself in his actions. And that's what made him very, very special. And that's why the waters didn't split until Nachshon was up until his chin. Because just to belief is dormant. Every Jew has belief, but buried within us. The belief is there, but it's dormant. And it can't impact the physical world unless we physically express that belief. Just like many Jews that believe in God and believe in Judaism, but they don't act it. So how much do their kids get from what they believe? Nothing. The only way to feed your faith, to share your faith, to prove that it's real, I shouldn't say prove it's real, it's real. But the only way to feed it and to share it and to truly live with it is to express that faith in physical, tangible actions. And this was what's so great about Nachshon. Nachshon ben Aminadab was rewarded tremendously. He was rewarded tremendously for this. When he went into that river, and because of the sea, and because of him, the Jews followed. And that is the cause for the splitting of the sea, was his ability to express his faith and his belief in God in a physical way. He was given many blessings as a result of that. His name was called Nachshon, which means he went to the sea. But he had 5 incredible descendants: King David, Daniel in the lion's den, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who were thrown to the lions, into the fiery furnace and didn't get burnt. All those 5 heroes were descendants of Nachshon. As we said before, all of the royalty of all the kings was given to the family of his tribe, to Yehuda. Mashiach is going to be a descendant of Nachshon ben Aminadav. And as we mentioned, he was he was the very first of the elders. Even though the tribe of Yehuda is not first, you have Reuben is first, etc. The first one to bring an offering on the very day when the Mishkan was inaugurated. Not to wait to day number 2, day number 3, day number 4. On day number 1, on the most special day, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first one to bring an offering on the altar was the first one to walk into the sea. The one that showed his faith, that he was willing to walk into the water, he's the first one that got to walk up the ramp to bring an altar. He's the first one that got to bring his offering before Hashem. And that's a special gift. Special gift. Okay. Now, really, there's a lot more miracles I could tell you about the splitting of the sea, how it split into 12 tunnels. Very, very briefly, the sea split into 12 tunnels. Each tribe had their own tunnel to walk through. And the walls were lucite, they were clear. So when they were in the tunnel, instead of feeling claustrophobic, like imagine you're in a water tunnel, you'll feel claustrophobic, like the water will come any second. The water became clear so they can see through the wall, so the other Jews in the other lane, so to say, next to them. And if they got thirsty, they just put their hand to the wall, and the wall melted to become clear, drinkable water, spring water. And then when they finished drinking, the wall became hard again. If they got hungry, they put their hand to the wall, and food came out of the wall. The floor of the sea should be muddy, right? There was the sea of the ocean. Became dry land, like a freshly paved road. It was smooth and easy to walk on. Many miracles happened. When they came to the other side, they saw the bodies of the Egyptian soldiers and their taskmasters washed up on the shore. Gave them a lot of hope and courage, seeing that their masters had finally died. They took all that wealth. They experienced the revelations of God. It says that what the maidservant saw at the splitting of the sea, the greatest prophet Yecheskel didn't see in his famous vision of the chariot that Ezekiel would see later on. Tremendous. That's why the Jews didn't want to leave. Some Jews didn't want to leave because they're busy collecting the wealth of the dead soldiers and the dead chariots and the dead horses. And some because they were looking at the vision of the Shekhinah. They saw it at the splitting of the sea. Yeah.
The question that I have right now is, when the sea split and Ramsey told them his people with the chariot go in. And he says, we can't. There's 3 fire tornadoes, or 4 fire tornadoes, where they couldn't get past it. And he says, you're afraid? And he led going through there first.
Who? Nach?
Ramsey.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
But didn't Pharaoh
Okay.
survive because that?
Yes. Pharaoh survived, and there's 2 opinions. What happened to Pharaoh at the splitting of the sea? Once as he lived till the very end, all the Egyptians died at different points. Depending on how wicked they were, some, when they came chasing into the water, some, they said that the water, just like the 10 miracles happened to the Jews in the sea, 10 plagues happened to the Egyptians at the sea. The water became, the mud became boiling hot. And the hooves of the horses fell off, so the horses got scared and they jumped up in the air and threw their riders onto the floor, into the ocean. And then the wheels melted in the heat of the Jews were on dry land. God did a miracle. The mud of the ocean became like hot clay, which was punishment measure for measure. They had made the Jews make clay. Now they were suffering in the clay. Their wheels got stuck, and the wheels of the wagon broke off. So they're being bounced around in the wagons that had no wheels, being broken, thrown around and breaking all their ribs. They were thrown to the hot mud. Some they got trapped in the mud. They tried to get up, they couldn't. They were trapped, and they were trampled by the other horses. And some of them died. The waves came and killed them. Some were thrown. Some sank down to the bottom of the sea, like lead, and drowned right away. And some were like straw. They were kept alive miraculously, and they were beaten around in the waves, being back and forth, so eventually they died. The last person to 2 opinions about Pharaoh. One is that Pharaoh lived to see all of this. And after it all, he also drowned, but he stayed alive the longest. Another opinion is he actually survived. He saw his entire nation destroyed. He ran away, never to go back to Egypt, of course. He could never show his face ever again. And he would eventually become the king of Nineveh when the story of Jonah, we read on Yom Kippur, when Jonah was sent to Nineveh to make them to do repentance, the king that listened to Jonah and said to them, repent, that was this same king. Yes, Vivi. Then Marshall. How long did it last? The whole through the night. It started in the morning. It started at dawn, and it went. I'm not sure exactly. A few hours, probably. Yes.
So, how many men were left in Egypt? I had this discussion recently with somebody.
How many Egyptian men were left in Egypt?
Yes.
Very few. Basically, only men.
How did they then survive?
They didn't. Egypt no longer becomes a superpower. From this moment on, there's still women and children. I'm sure some men that didn't go to fight, some crippled men, some older men that didn't fight. But as a nation, Egypt, if you follow world history, and everyone, there's some kind of mass calamity that happens to the Egyptians. That's written in their pyramids and all that. That is the end of Egypt as a superpower of the world. How do they go from being every other superpower that ends its reign? We know how it happens, right? The story, there was Greek was in charge, and then the Romans came, and then, Alexander the Great, Babylon, each one, the Greek did. With Egypt, there's no other nation invaded Egypt. They drowned themselves at the sea.
So who took over Egypt?
No, who became, so that's what I'm saying, there was no other great superpower that conquered Egypt. Every other superpower that disappears is conquered. We know what happened, with the exception of Rome, it just rotted and decayed and fell apart and was infighting. But all the other civilizations, you had the Babylonians, who were then conquered by the Greeks.
So if the women and children are in Egypt and the men never come back, do they go to other countries or they just stay there in Egypt?
They said again, some men stayed. Not every man fought in the army. I don't know a number. But I'm sure there were older men that didn't fight, or crippled men. I'm saying there was some people hid. You think every single Egyptian man?
Boys.
Young boys.
So they just
The peoples remained there. The women, but they were no longer a nation of importance. They became a poor, impoverished nation. All their wealth was gone. Their men were gone. Their army was gone. So I don't know what happened to them next. Okay. Now, my friends, let's get to the lessons for us. I want to talk about Yusha. Now, this story is not mentioned in the Torah. That being said, the Rebbe talks about Nachshon and Aminadav many, many times. And the Rebbe very clearly and very explicitly says, it's not me extrapolating, clearly, I saw tonight a few times where the Rebbe says that every single person needs to learn from Nachshon and Aminadav. The me in the Bible of the story of Nachshon, the one that had faith, that actually impacted the way they behaved, is so important to us that we all need to behave this way. Every one of us. Because if you think about it, what did Nachshon do? We don't know anything about Nachshon's spiritual greatness. We don't know if Nachshon was a genius or a scholar. We don't know. Was he a holy man? Was he spiritual? Was he righteous? Could be he was. I'm not saying he wasn't. I don't know if he must be. Having faith doesn't require genius, doesn't require a great level of holiness. Sometimes the smartest, most intelligent people have the hardest time just doing what needs to be done. I'm not saying he wasn't. But the Torah doesn't tell us at all. We have no indication what kind of a spiritual person was Nachshon. Was he righteous? Was he humble? Actually, I saw much he wasn't humble, which is why it says when he brought the offering on the first day, it doesn't say that he was a Nasi. It doesn't say he was a prince. Because if he'd be a prince, if the Torah would call him the prince who came first, he would show up to the other princes. But he was a man of action. He was a man who saw what had to be done, and because it had to be done, he did it. He didn't think about it. He didn't analyze it. He didn't create a think tank to have a meeting, to have a committee, to plan, to discuss when the next meeting would be, to have another discussion about what kind of problem they have, to try and think of how to raise money to try and find a solution. That's what many Jewish organizations do, right? They have a problem. So first they make a committee. That takes 6 months. Then they have a meeting to plan who should be the committee. Then they have another meeting to plan the agenda for the meeting. Then they have another meeting to plan if there'll be a budget for the committee. They're going to make a think tank to commission a study about the problem, but it's going to cost money. So is there a budget? So they have a budget committee to plan the budget, etc., etc., etc. This turn. And by the time they're done with all their planning, 6 years have gone by and they're still analyzing the problem. That's what all the other Jews are doing. The other Jews were sitting there by the sea, and some said, let's jump into the ocean. Some said, let's commit suicide. Some said, let's go back. No planning committees. Action. Nachshon was told by God, speak to the Jewish people, Vayisa'u, and you should travel. So guess what? He traveled. And the story, he traveled. No, nothing else to discuss. This Wednesday, God willing, coming up in 2 days, tomorrow night actually, tomorrow night is Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat, the 10th day of the month of Shvat, is the day 1951 when the Rebbe formally accepted leadership of Chabad. Right? And so it's the yard site of the previous Rebbe, but for us, it's a very, very, very special day, because the day that our Rebbe became our Rebbe, it's the day that Chabad, as it is today, the 7th generation of Chabad, officially began on Yud Shvat. Now, this story, tonight's discussion on Nachshon, is exactly the mission of this generation. The Rebbe, I would venture to say, it's my own thesis now, like Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a man that loved every single Jew, cared for every single Jew, and there's many, many similarities between the way that Moshe fought for his nation and cared and risked and sacrificed everything for his nation, the way our Rebbe did for our generation. But us, the Shluchim, the Hasidim, the followers of the Rebbe, what did the Rebbe want from us? To be like Nachshon. Action. And there are so many stories, so many examples, so many places where you see that the Rebbe, and that's what the Rebbe quotes this over and over to the Rebbe, the actions of Nachshon are meant to be a lesson for us. Not to wait for the big smart guys. Nachshon could have said, hold on, where's Aaron? Where's Moshe? Where's all the other important? Where's Amram? Where's all these other important people? Nachshon didn't wait for anybody else. Didn't wait for any opinions. He saw what needed to be done, and he did it. I'm going to tell you 2 stories. First story is I heard the story direct from Yossi Lu. He's a shliach in Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta, Georgia, besides being the place where he's a rabbi, is also the place where Coca-Cola is headquartered. Right? Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. 1995, he gets a phone call from some executives in Coca-Cola. They want to have a meeting with him shortly after the Rebbe passed away. They want to have a meeting with, so someone calls it, they want to understand how Chabad works. They want to think about Chabad. They want to, donate, like every Chabad rabbi, you call him up, you want to make a day? Sure, of course. So they scheduled a time, and the way he told me the story, I heard the story by Fabrega, I heard the way he said the story. He's in his office, whatever, 11 o'clock in the morning, whatever time, a black limousine pulls up, and out of the limousine comes like 4 or 5 guys in fancy suits and ties and briefcases, like, real, dressed whatever. They come to the Chabad, he's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? They sit down, they sit very seriously. We want to understand, how does Chabad get we see Chabad, we're looking now at other brands that are very successful in creating innovative ideas that can catch like wildfire. So Chabad has an idea that them, matzo ball competitions, or chauffeur factories, or these are going back to the chauffeur factory, and next thing, menorah parades, and menorahs in the cars. Next thing you know, every city in America has a menorah parade. So we see Chabad as an expert at taking these innovative, brand new ideas that have never been done before, and getting it to spread all over. Amazing marketing. You want to understand, so the executives of Coca-Cola are coming to the Chabad rabbi in Atlanta, Georgia. They want to understand, how does it work? So Lou is sitting there like, I don't understand the question. Like, explain to me, like, what do you mean, how does Chabad work? Like, explain to me, how does it work by you? What's the question? So, he literally didn't understand what they were trying to get from him. So, they said, I'll explain to like how it works in Coca-Cola. In Coca-Cola, we want to make a new product. They want to make Coca-Cola Zero. I don't know, right? So, it's at least 2 to 3 years from the idea until the very first bottle of Coca-Cola Zero can come out. It's a few years of millions and millions of dollars of research. First, we have a whole committee that spends 3 months brainstorming 50 ideas. Then of the 50 ideas, we put them into 50 different think tanks, a group, whatever they're called, right? We do testing, and we have to develop it, and we have to, et cetera, and they develop it, and they test it, and they tweak it, and then they bring it back for testing, and then for marketing. It takes 3 years and $2 million to get a product off the ground. Come on, we want to see how do you do it. So Lou says, I can't help you. We have a Rebbe. It's a whole different ballgame. Thank you very much. They shook his hand. There's nothing I don't have to tell you, like, you wasted your time coming to talk to me, basically. There's nothing that Coke could learn from Chabad. Even though wherever there's Chabad, but there's nothing that Coke could learn from Chabad. Why? It's very simple, our message. Something needs to be done, we go and we do it. And this was the way the Rebbe's motto was always. You're all familiar with the story of Rabbi Sachs, right? When Rabbi Sachs came to the Rebbe with a young college student, and the Rebbe started asking him about this kosher food in Cambridge University, and where the Jewish students hang out, and he started saying, the situation I find myself in, I can't. Rebbe Kalamov said, no one finds himself in the situation. You make your situation, you can choose a different situation, and basically the Rebbe took him out of being some economist or whatever he wanted to be, and the Rebbe gave him a leadership position, said, go do it, and you'll do it, you'll figure out how to do it. I'll tell you a story you don't know. Same idea though. So this week, or last week rather, was the 40-year anniversary of Chabad of Portland, Oregon. Happens to be Portland, Oregon. Rabbi Willem, his son was when I was in yeshiva, was like my older student or whatever. So Rabbi Willem is his name. So he explained the speech or whatever. So he explained 40 years ago how he lived in Portland, Oregon. 40 years ago, he got married, him and his wife, and they ended up going on a 2-year rabbinic training Kolo program in Melbourne, Australia. Not sure if his wife is from there. There was a program in Melbourne, Australia, a 2-year program to become rabbis, smicha, learning it. It's called the Kolo. He was committed for 2 years. He went. 18 months into the program, he gets a message from the Rebbe's office, from Rabbi Chadakov, that the community in Portland, Oregon is looking for a Chabad, for a rabbi, and that maybe he should look into it to see if it's an option for him. He's thinking, in 6 months I'm finishing my program, and 6 months I graduate, so whatever he's looking. So anyway, so he flew from Australia. He left his wife in Australia. They had a wife, a kid, whatever. He flew to Oregon, checked out the community for a week. He went and met with the different people, the different community leaders, whoever he met. Sure enough, looks like a beautiful community. He saw the potential. He saw the opportunities. He came from there to New York to be by the Rebbe, and then he's going to go back to Australia, finish the program, 6 months, and then, with the Rebbe's blessing, he moved to Oregon, and that's where he would become a rabbi. He's in Crown Heights. He meets Rabbi Chadakov in 770. And the street, Rabbi Chadakov says, what are you doing here? So he said, okay, when I finished Oregon, it's very nice. How was it? How was it? We went. She asked him, how was it? He says, very good. The community was very nice. I met the people. It looks like it makes sense. God willing, we'll finish in 6 months, and we'll move to Oregon. Chadikav says to him, let me ask you a question. Imagine you're walking down the street with Chadikav, who was Rebbe's main secretary, whatever Chadikav said, he was like, the half of the Rebbe. Imagine you're walking down the street, and you see a house is burning on fire, and there's someone screaming, help, help, I can't get out of the house, save me. Would you tell them, 6 months, hang tight, I'm going to finish my degree, I'll see you in 6 months, I'll be back to save you. You would never do that. They're calling for you for help. The community is saying, we need a rabbi now. 6 months, you'll go save them. 6 months, you'll go help. What are they supposed to do for 6 months? Action. You got the message. He went from New York back to Oregon, sent the message to his wife, for phones, sent the message to his wife, pack up the house, pack up whatever we have. I'll meet you in Oregon. He never went back to Australia. And that's how he ended up in Portland. But this was the way they were operating. No time to waste. Not even like, okay, let's make a meeting. You know how many stories there are where people, Rebbe gave them a job? So he said, sure, next week, next month, I'll do it. Next month. Today's Thursday. If you go quickly, you can go before Shabbos. Okay. There's so many stories like that. And the Rebbe didn't have, there was no, people think Chabad is so amazing, so organized. Now here's the secret. I'll tell you the secret now. Before Yeshvat, for the anniversary of the Chabad leadership, there was no marketing plan by the Rebbe. There was no think tank to figure out what's the best way to influence a community. The Rebbe took shluchim who weren't trained, who weren't brilliant, who weren't the greatest orators and the greatest business managers and the greatest people. They were just people that understood the need to do. That's all they understood. We need to do. We can't sit on the sidelines and wait for somebody else. We can't watch and think and plan and have a discussion what we will do, what we could do, what we want to do. The secret of Chabad is the secret of Nachshon, is the secret of the secret of Chabad is the secret of the splitting of the sea. Nachshon ben Aminadav didn't wait for anybody. All he did was do what had to be done. The faith that he had was so strong, it was so real, he was able to express it in action. And this is the call for the hour, the call of the hour for us, coming to the anniversary of Chabad's being Chabad. To not wait for anybody else. You see a Jew in need. You see a problem that has to be solved. You see someone is alone, someone needs help, someone needs a prayer book, there's nowhere shul is. Don't say someone else will help, the rabbi should call him, don't wait for the rabbi, don't wait for the federation, don't wait for the world, don't wait for the government, don't wait for anybody. Every one of us needs to be a Nachshon. We see something needs to be done, just go in and do it. And when we do it, that's how we cause the sea to be split. The greatest miracle the Jews ever experienced, the greatest revelation of God which took place in the splitting of the sea, only happened after the Jewish people were able to express their faith through action. And so too now, when we have very strong faith. The Jews before Mashiach are the biggest believers. When we express our faith through action, that will be the catalyst to bring the greatest revelation, the greatest redemption, or the ultimate revelation of God with coming of Mashiach, God willing, very, very soon. Good night, my friends.